Welcome to MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things magic. In this video, we're going to discuss a way to build the core of a commander deck around Bane, Lord of Darkness, as its general. Thank you for choosing MTG Burgeoning for your Magic the Gathering content. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video and consider becoming a subscriber. Doing so supports the channel and makes you eligible for our various subscriber rewards series. If you would like to support the channel further, then click the link to our Patreon page in the description below. There, you can join our ongoing Pack Wars series as a 1-month supporter or ongoing member. Or try joining Pack Wars for free by commenting on every MTG Burgeoning video in a month. We strive to offer creative rewards through our various Patreon tiers. So if Pack Wars isn't for you, then something else will be. Links to our content and various subscriber rewards series can be found in the description below. Send us an email, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram. We are your channel for all things magic. Bane, Lord of Darkness, is a 5/2 legendary god for 1 and Esper colors. As long as our starting life total is less than or equal to half of our starting life total, then Bane, Lord of Darkness, has Indestructible. Whenever another non-token creature we control dies, target opponent may have us draw a card. If they don't, then we may put a creature card with equal or lesser toughness from our hand onto the battlefield. Bane wants us to draw cards. We want to punish our opponents for doing so. Bane wants us to put creatures into play for free. We want to punish our opponents for doing so. With these themes in mind, we will create the core of an EDH deck built around Bane's card drawing and creature playing abilities, with the following caveats. We will punish our opponents for each choice they make, and win the game by doing so. We begin by prioritizing effects that punish our opponents when we draw cards. Psychosis Crawler will drain each opponent for 1 life each time we draw a card. Keza, Augur of Agonies, will drain an opponent for 1 life and gain us 1 life each time we draw a card. With enough foreshadow counters on Ominous Seas, we'll be creating 8/8 blue Kraken creature tokens like nobody's business. Barring any shuffle effects, Psychic Corrosion has the potential of milling out our opponents. We can also punish our opponents by out-resourcing them. Reaching level 3 on Wizard class will allow us to dole out +1/+1 counters like candy from a Pez dispenser whenever we draw a card. Chasm Skulker will get a +1/+1 counter on it each time we draw a card, and when it dies, we will create an army of island-walking squid creature tokens. Toothy, Imaginary Friend, also gets a +1/+1 counter whenever we draw a card, and when it dies, we'll draw a card for each +1/+1 counter on it. Oneraphage's Evasion makes it a threat for one-shotting, as it gets a +1/+1 counter each time we draw a card. Although its human-targeted evasion enabling may be sporadic, Shabraz the Sky Shark will get a +1/+1 counter and gain us 1 life each time we draw a card. Dream Trawler will create unending headaches for our opponents. It gets a temporary power boost each time we draw a card, draws us a card when it enters combat, has lifelink, and built-in hexproof enablement. Let's make all of these punishments harsher by drawing 2 cards instead of 1 with Alhammarit's Archive. Whenever we draw a card other than the first card we draw during each of our draw steps, we'll draw 2 cards instead. Aside from potentially gaining double life, we'll do the exact same thing with Teferi's Ageless Insight. Perhaps our opponents will become wise to this card-drawing theme. They may opt instead for us to put a creature card from our hand into play with toughness less than or equal to the dying non-token creature that triggered Bane. Well, there's room to punish them for that decision as well. To ensure that we always put a creature onto the battlefield with lesser toughness, we will fill this portion of the core with creatures with 0 toughness. How do we do this? Well, we do so with creatures like Clever Impersonator, which has a toughness of 0, and when it enters the battlefield, it becomes a copy of any non-land permanent on the battlefield. Let's keep going. Phantasmal Image is fragile, but comes into play as a copy of any creature on the battlefield. Evil Twin does the same, but also has a spot removal effect which destroys target creature with the same name as it. Targeting an opponent's commander could practically nullify it from the game. Phyrexian Metamorph comes into play as a copy of any creature or artifact on the battlefield. Undercover Operative becomes the copy of any creature on the battlefield, in addition to having a shield counter on it. The original clone ETBs as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, and Gigantoplasm does the same with the option of changing its base power and toughness at instant speed. Body Double extends its creature copying ability to any creature in any graveyard, in addition to any creature on the battlefield. Sakashima's Student has the ninjutsu mechanic, as well as becoming a copy of any creature on the battlefield. Mirror Image is limited to copying only creatures we control when it ETBs, while Glasspool Mimic does the same, but has the upside of playing it as a land instead. Mercurial Pretender can only become a copy of a creature we control, but it has a built-in bounce ability. Spark Double enters as a copy of a creature we control with an additional +1/+1 counter on it, or as a planeswalker we control with an additional loyalty counter on it, and it isn't legendary if that permanent is legendary. Similarly, Sakashima of 1,000 Faces enters the battlefield as a copy of a creature we control, but the legend rule does not apply to permanents we control. Cloning Bane could be backbreaking to our opponents. With Sakashima on our side of the battlefield, each of our clone effects can target our general without the fear of losing it to the legend rule. In this instance, redundancy is our friend, so we should also include Mirror Gallery and Mirror Box. Each of these artifacts negates the legend rule for our permanents. Mirror Box gives each legendary creature we control +1/+1, and each non-token creature gets +1/+1 for each other creature we control with the same name as that creature. If we copy Bane with our clone effects, not only do we get to enjoy multiple Bane triggers whenever a non-token creature we control dies, but Mirror Box's coat of arms-like ability adds a win condition to the core of this deck in the form of beatdown combat. Or perhaps we want our creatures to die through the use of the legend rule. Each clone effect copies Bane, and then we immediately choose one to put into the graveyard in observance of the legend rule. This triggers Bane's death trigger to either draw a card or put a creature into play. Now, let's include a bunch of other death triggers. In classic aristocrat style, Zilliport Cutthroat drains each opponent for 1 life, and we gain 1 life whenever a creature we control dies. Cruel Celebrant does the same, but adds Planewalkers to the life-draining mix. Bastion of Remembrance is an enchantment that drains each opponent for 1 life, and gains us 1 life whenever a creature we control dies. When it enters the battlefield, it also creates a 1/1 white human soldier creature token. Although creatures our opponents control must die in order for us to gain life, the Meat Hook Massacre will drain our opponents for 1 life whenever a creature we control dies. Blood Artist is a bit more selective with its life-draining effect, but gains us life as well. Pitiless Plunderer will accelerate our mana by creating a treasure token each time a creature we control dies. Athreos, God of Passage, adds a burdensome wrinkle to our opponents, as each creature that dies can be returned to our hand unless target opponent pays 3 life. Let's create even more headaches for our opponents by including Teysa Karlov. Although her Vigilance and Lifelink enablement will be underutilized in this deck, Teysa's additional death trigger will make even quicker work of ending the game for our opponents. With the legend rule or without it, Sir Conrad the Grim enhances this core and acts as a win condition, as whenever another creature dies, each opponent will be dealt 1 point of damage. Let's complete the core of this build by optimizing and enhancing our aforementioned themes. If we lean heavily into Bane's card draw effect, then we should consider some additional card draw win conditions. Laboratory Maniac is the gold standard of this archetype. If we were to draw a card while our library has no cards in it, we win the game instead. Jace, Wielder of Mysteries, has the same ability in addition to a +1 loyalty ability of having target player mill 2 cards, and then we draw a card. Thassa's Oracle delivers victory through an empty library or one with less cards than our devotion to blue upon its entrance onto the battlefield. If we need sacrifice outlets for our Bane clone engine to rev, then we need to look no further than Viscera Seer. For just 1 black mana, we get a sacrifice outlet that allows us to scry 1 each time we use it. Carrion Feeder provides another sacrifice outlet for the same investment in mana, but instead of scrying, it gets +1/+1 counters. Of course, when in doubt, we can look to our altars. Altar of Dementia will mill a player X cards, where X is the sacrifice creature's power. Phyrexian Altar rewards our sacrifice with 1 mana of any color, while Ashnod's Altar provides 2 colorless mana whenever we sacrifice a creature to it. Since Bane is so important to the engine of our deck, we must include some protection. We can give our general on-the-spot indestructibility by casting Plunge into Darkness and paying enough life to trigger Bane's indestructible ability. As a bonus, we get a card in our hand. We can do the same by casting Hatred, while also giving target creature +X/+0 until end of turn. These are versatile, instant speed options that can prevent the destruction of our general. Lightning Greaves may be the most valuable equipment that can be attached to Bane as a way to ward off spot removal. Shroud is not a deterrent here, as our clone effects do not target creatures for copying, thereby allowing the clones to become copies of Bane while Bane is protected by Lightning Greaves. Sometimes the simplest form of protection is the best form. This video provided a blueprint for building the core of a commander deck around Bane, Lord of Darkness, as its general. Removal spells, ramp, and the land base can vary from build to build, and also are dependent on metagame preferences and availability. The cards discussed during this video are suggested options for taking advantage of Bane's card drawing and putting creatures into play abilities, in addition to providing ways to optimize these themes. Let me know your thoughts about these recommendations in the comment section below. This is MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things magic.